From the Black Swan Media Studios, deep inside a secret underground bunker, we're speaking to freedom-loving patriots from all around the country and the world. Welcome to the Resistance. This is John Crump, live.
And we're back for the final episode of the week, and we have a great guy that I want to pick the brain of a little bit, and we have a returning guest from earlier on in the week. But before we bring on our guest, let's bring on Flying Rich. Flying Rich, how you doing?
Good. Hey, John, miss you, a lot.
Yeah, we just did a live stream about an hour ago that was supposed to be like a 15-minute live stream, and it went
That was killer. That was great.
Over an hour. We are joined by the one, the only Daniel Woodward, MMA fighter, retired, GOA guy, and TV contestant, producer, YouTuber, Star Wars fanatic, and everyone else. He was on the show Monday, and we're going to introduce our final guest. But before we do that, remember, we are sponsored by Gideon Optics. Gideon Optics makes affordable optics that are great, and I run them on all my firearms, and you should too. And we have Don Mann, the man of the hour. Don, if you do not know, is... okay, if you look up a dictionary of extreme things people can do, that's his biography. Just do that. Former SEAL Team 6 member. You went on an expedition to try to climb Everest. You did adventure racing, which is insane racing. You have best-selling books, a TV host, and probably missing about 80 other things.
Well, John, it's good to be on the show with you. It's good to see you.
Yeah. So how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. I've been staying glued to the news. That's keeping my attention lately. And but pretty much I'm doing well. I'm staying busy, working out and things like that. Yeah. Your old unit is apparently on the ground in Israel right now. Yep. I heard that. JSOC, SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, probably some hostage rescue team guys from the FBI went out there. And I'm really, really happy to hear they went out there because I've worked with the Israeli Defense Forces quite a bit over the years in Israel and other places. And they are really good, but so is SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force.
Yeah.
And, I don't believe no matter how good the IDF is, they can't do this alone. So I'm really happy to hear that our guys went out there.
Do you think they're going to try to attempt some hostage rescues, or you don't know?
Well, I don't know, but I do believe, there are American hostages there. And it is our responsibility to try to get those Americans out alive. And there's nobody better to do it than our Tier 1 units.
Yeah, the Tier 1 units are badass. You're like the only SEAL Team 6 guy I know, but I do know a few Delta guys. I used to work at the State Department, and as you probably know, Delta and State Department work very closely together. Yeah.
They were the what we call sister, units. I always made fun of the Delta guys. I said, "Oh, you can't swim, you couldn't get in SEAL teams." But yeah, Delta guys are really professional, super, super talented. And when you're doing something with a Delta guy, it's done right. Those guys are great.
Yeah, they're really good guys too.
Yeah.
They SEAL Team 6 and like DevGru or whatever, and Delta, they're like the epitome of the quiet operators.
Yeah, when you the difference is really the only difference is they also have a maritime capability. SEAL Team 6 has a pretty robust maritime capability. Sea, air, and land is SEAL, of course. But the difference between Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, is SEAL Team 6, you come from a SEAL team, you've got this level of experience and amount of deployments and all that, and then you get selected for SEAL Team 6. So when you get to 6, you're a very experienced operator. And Delta Force, they usually get their guys from Special Forces in the Ranger community, but they go Army-wide. They can pick their people from anywhere they want. It doesn't have to be Special Forces or Ranger, although it normally is. And then they go hardcore selection to become Delta. And I've never met a Delta guy who's less than 100% right on.
Yeah, the guys I know, they all came from a 75th Ranger battalion.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of them come from there.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think that they will do something if they have the correct intel, because everything depends on intel, right?
Yep, and of course, we get a lot of bad intel, and but the one thing I'm comforted in knowing is that when it makes the news, there's a lot of things they've already done, so they're over there working already, and we won't hear it on the news, and we don't want to hear it on the news. The public shouldn't hear it on the news, but they're not over there for vacation. They're hard at work.
Yeah, definitely. So what have you been up to besides watching the news?
Well, I'm involved in a TV show called Surviving Mann, which that's how I know Gundoc. And so that's been a lot of fun. We've been filming. We just came off a dive boat, filming off a dive boat in Belize, where it was maritime missions we were training for, a lot of scuba, open swims, nighttime swims. And we actually had our assault teams, our members in the show, come up under a ship and disable a ship in the middle of the night with fishing nets. And they had to disable this ship because it had chemical warfare agents on it. And then they came back and they got reports that they did just disable the ship. However, they sent divers in, cut off the fishing nets. Now the ship's making movement. And so they had to go back on and do another dive in the middle of the night on scuba tanks, board the ship once it was stable. They got on the ship and they got these containers of a chemical agent, got them off the boat, and 2 mission successes back to back. It was a really good time.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So this is the 3rd season?
Yes. Yep. And I'm going tomorrow to Colorado to put on a training event for some executives where we're going to do a lot of climbing, rope climbing, via ferrata. And we're going to do a little mission out there in Colorado where these executives are going to go after this cartel unit. They've taken a girl hostage, and they're into drug smuggling and also human trafficking. So I'll be doing that with them, and then going to New Jersey and doing some leadership training with a financial institution. So I've been staying busy with that type of thing.
Yeah, the missions that you run these people through, how do you come up with them? Do you come up with them, or do somebody else comes up with? How do they come about?
I come up with them, but it's in the middle of the night. I'll wake up thinking, "Oh my God, I got to write this down. This is going to be really cool," and I just think about it all the time. But to tell you the truth, I get a lot of it from the news and seeing what's going on in the news and historically what's happened with our military, and try to base it off things that have happened or are happening currently.
No, that's cool. So you just like look and take current events and craft the story around it.
Yeah. And I've written some books in the same way. And the movie Forrest Gump, my mother loved that movie. I loved it, but we had this common bond of Forrest Gump. And I was thinking about her. She had passed away, and I was thinking about her. I started thinking about that movie. Then I started thinking that movie was really a history lesson. It was a history lesson with this fictional character. He's not a real guy. He's just a fictional guy. But he went through Watergate and Vietnam and through the Nixon administration, Kennedy and Johnson. And then his girlfriend died of the virus, which was ending up being called AIDS. But it was a history lesson. I started thinking, I'm not a great writer, but I could probably, with the help of a really good writer, come up with a story that maybe a SEAL guy or a Delta Force guy or maybe an agency guy can do these missions of things that have happened in the past and do the same thing as like the Forrest Gump show did with a historical lesson. So I called the writer for the TV show Murder, She Wrote, and his name is Thomas Sawyer. And I said, hey, Tom, I got this great idea, but I'm not good enough of a writer to do this. Would you like to help me out? And he said, man, I love that idea, but I can't really help you. I'm too busy with this TV show I'm working on. So I connected with a good friend of his who's very, very accomplished writer, who was dating Madonna, and he goes to parties with Jack Nicholson and Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, big type guy. And he's a really great friend of mine now. And I told him about the idea, and he came out to Virginia from Hollywood to meet with me, and we wrote a book. But what we did, we went forward, like this is what would happen in the SEAL community. This is what a mission a SEAL could get. And everything was nothing was sensitive. And so we just did it in different countries. And then, believe it or not, the publisher liked it. And then we went on for 8 different books, one after another, but all based on what could actually happen. And so that worked out really well, I thought.
Well, that's very cool. So you got a series of 8 books?
Yeah. Actually, 23 books in total, but 8 books was the series, and it was a fictional series, but based on things that are happening or what did happen historically.
Now, I've read quite a few of your books.
Oh, you have? Thanks.
Yeah. Well, for season 1, I didn't know what to expect. No one did.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get to know who you were, because the way it was presented is we would be competing against you. So I was trying to learn the man, so to speak.
Well, I would have been slaughtered competing against you and the other guys. You guys would have beat me pretty badly. And that was the original concept, that the producer, Bob Seifel, wanted me to compete with the champion of the show. And I said, Bob, come on, I'm in my 60s, even at my best years, competing with these guys, I'm not going to win. And so I changed up the concept last minute when I met you all and said, you guys think you're here for some reality TV show. Well, it's not that. We need some hardcore people like yourself to help us out and putting together a selection course, because there's a guy who's going to be assassinated at the end of the week. And we got to save that guy. And he's got a lot of good intel and a lot of information. And he's to support the U.S. government, U.S. military with this information. And now they're going to execute him. And the military and the government doesn't want anything to do with him at all. But now we have you guys in one place, and ladies, and we got to put together a selection course and go free this guy. And then that's what you all did. And you guys, you're brilliant in the way you carried that off. You pulled that off.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you guys come up with the story. It's just not like a regular reality show where it's like every week. There's actually a storyline to it.
Yes.
Yeah, the producer told me, and he doesn't really have a spec ops background. He was in the Navy, but he said there's 3 ways to do things. The producer and the director get together and they tell the host, which is me, tell the host what to do. That's not going to work here. He said, or the host and the producer and director all get together and they talk about what's going to happen. But that just takes a lot of time, and we didn't really have to do all that. And he said, the 3rd way is you do what you want. You do the training you want to. You do whatever you think is right, and we'll produce it and direct it. And we have that agreement, and it's been really almost flawless on the way it works. And I won't do anything to hurt anybody or endanger anybody's lives, although injuries can happen. But they just say, yep, let's go. We'll shoot it. We'll produce it. We'll film it. We'll edit and all that. So it works out well.
Yeah, nothing's intentional when you try to avoid injuries, but they're not always avoidable.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, too, and those guys, they have the mentality that even if they're sick or injured, they're going to keep pushing and so forth and so on. It's just the type of people that were there.
Yeah.
It's like professional athletes. Sometimes they need to be protected against themselves.
When you have that mindset where you're going to keep going no matter what, it is it's hurting the SEALs a little bit right now, I think. And of course, that's a mentality everybody has in the teams is can-do attitude. We can do it no matter what. Give me a K-bar in my mouth and I'll swim and I'll go get the enemy myself. It's just the attitude you have, and it's the attitude I still have and the attitude I like to have. And unfortunately, what I'm seeing now, it's discouraging, because now the young guys in the teams, a lot of them have been at war their whole lives, their whole adult lives, 20 plus years, nonstop back-to-back wars. We had it easy. We didn't have 2 back-to-back wars when I was in. We had it easy relative to what happened just the last 20 years.
Sure.
But boy, it's really sad to see people in my generation and before my generation, even after my generation, going through all these medical problems, and so many of them. Oh man, I got another one today. A good friend of mine died. So many of them are dying early. And I have a really good friend who lives in a car, and he was one of my favorite operators to look up to, a SEAL, when I was at SEAL Team 1. As a brand new SEAL, I always looked up to this guy because he was good shot, good tactics, good everything. He was really good at everything. And then he went over to SEAL Team 6, and eventually I got to 6. I followed him, and I looked up to him at 6 because he became one of the top Team 6 operators too. And this guy was just, in my mind, the best you can be. And I hear from him, maybe every couple weeks, and he lives in a car now, and he can't be around people. And I said, "Are you okay? Why are you living in your car?" He said, I can't be around people yet. It's been about 6 years I've been living in my car. It's not really a car, it's a Suburban. And I have my bed and I have my stuff and I have my gun. And I go down to the pool once or twice a week and take a shower. And he is so intelligent. When you talk to him on the phone, you would think he was like, a top-notch operator, which he is and was. But it's damaged his brain. Everything he's gone through, it's damaged his brain. And he's just one case of a lot of guys I know that they've been affected by, yes, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I'll go on this mission. I'll go on this mission. I'll go on this mission. The family will be fine. I don't need to go home for another 6 months or so. Let me keep going. And it's what makes the SEALs teams and the other special forces teams so great. But I'm seeing the damage it's done on our folks with that can-do attitude. And we got to keep that attitude, of course. And I'm just saying a bad side effect of that attitude. There's a lot of great side effects too, but
Yeah.
Is there some form of exit training when you leave the service that they prep you for regular civilian life to get you, acclimated?
there are probably about 20 programs now. And, the high incidence of PTSD and these microconcussions and concussions and brain trauma, everybody is trying to find a solution. And I haven't yet heard of anything that's helped anybody yet, though.
Yeah, I have a friend that was a combat controller, and he did, I think, like 12 to 14, I can't remember the exact number, 12 to 14 combat deployments in like 3 different war zones. He was because combat controllers, they're Air Force, but they get implanted with whoever.
Yep.
So he tried to get PTSD like pretty bad, and he tried to get out, and so you go out on what's called inactive reserve. So he wanted to get out, and then they reactivated him because of a lack of combat controllers. And he's like, I have PTSD pretty bad, and they're like, here's your waiver.
Oh shoot!
Get back.
I would probably bet CCT, the PJs, the Air Force PJs, which they come from the same community in the Air Force Special Ops, Special Forces, Rangers, Marines, and SEALs. I would find it hard to believe if they've been in more than 6 or so years that they don't have PTSD.
Yeah.
When I went to talk to this psychologist about a couple of friends of mine, and she wanted to talk to me about a couple of buddies I know. One of them, when he walks in, he stands against the wall because he's afraid a blast will come through the window, and he doesn't want to get sniper shots through the door. I mean, they are in trouble. I mean, a lot of the guys, they just pushed really, really hard, and they're so unselfish too, you know. So I'm glad we have such at least the Americans, most Americans appreciate what they're doing now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not going to name names or anything, but he's been like a friend of mine before he was actually doing what he did, and just to see what he used to be like to what he is now, I've known him for years and years. It's dramatic. It's a dramatic difference. He's a totally different person. He's always nervous and everything else now. Always on edge. I just feel so bad. I mean,
you know, not to make a depressing conversation more depressing, but we've had in the Naval Special Warfare community a couple of commanding officers that raise up to the very top to being a commanding officer commit suicide. It's that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like there's more that can be done for these guys.
Yeah, I'm just glad. You know, you get off of airplane and you see the veterans come through in uniform, usually Army. They come in uniform, and the crowds clap for them. And anytime I see a veteran in a restaurant or anything, I'll actually, you know, I don't say as a veteran, but I say thanks for your service, and I pay for their bill, their tab, and we just can't thank them enough what they're doing nowadays. We had it easy. I'm not taking away from my generation, but compared to what they're doing now, we had it pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, most people that are working in the special forces, do they have are there people that are unaffected? Like, what's the ratio of people that have some form of PTSD that versus don't?
I don't really know anybody who wasn't affected. I could tell you I went 20 years without going to a doctor because my friends were saying, you better go. Why didn't you just go get checked out? I said, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm climbing Everest. I'm doing things like that. I'm fine. I don't need to go see a doctor. Plus, I don't have any entitlement. I don't feel I deserve anything. The government's taken really good care of me. I don't need anything as far as extra pay or disability pay or anything like that. But when I went, I finally promised 2 SEAL buddies of mine, okay, I'll go. I'll just get a checkup. In 2 minutes, yep, you've got PTSD, you've got brain damage, you've got all this. They diagnosed that within a minute, I think. Wow. And I still don't really believe it, but they diagnosed it pretty quickly. And I believe that anybody who goes in to get evaluated, who've been in at least a few years, will probably get that diagnosis and more.
Yeah, I know one guy that he's a Gurnberry, it's another guy I grew up with. And I wouldn't say that he's not affected, but he's not as affected as some of the other people I know. Mm-hmm. I know he has a really good sense of he can
compartmentalize.
Yeah, that.
And you got me not saying it right.
Yeah, he can do it really well. But I mean, I think that is a talent that you have to be born with. I don't think it can be learned.
You know what I like to think about? My father was a World War II vet, and he quit high school when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. And he and his whole generation, called the greatest generation, here they are, you know, they get called to war, boom, they're fighting the Japanese or they're fighting the Germans. They're in World War II, saving the war, getting slaughtered, especially Normandy and invasions like that. They came back. Nobody went to the doctor for PTSD or shell shock, whatever they were calling it.
Right.
They came back and created the greatest country that was ever created.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any of the medical support that we have now. So you got to also weigh it. Well, how did they do that? You know, and then of course the Vietnam guys, they came back somewhat damaged, a lot of them. But World War II, it didn't seem as noticeable. You know, you didn't even hear about it. And if it was noticeable, I guess that's what you just didn't hear about, the guys who are really suffering.
Yeah, I mean, I think that PTSD did exist back then. I think it was stigmatized
Mhm.
and a lot of people didn't get help.
Yeah, it was not the manly thing to do to say, "Hey, I need some help." You didn't do that back then.
Yeah, but I just saw something recently that showed World War II during like the first day of Normandy or something like that. That more people died during the first day of Normandy than total in the Iraq and Afghanistan war.
Oh yeah, I would definitely believe that. Just getting off those boats and trying to invade the beaches, Omaha Beach, and they were set up. They came on an open beach, and the machine guns just ripping them to pieces.
A lot of people drowned too because
they had the heavy gear on, and the boats couldn't get all the way to shore. When they jumped off the back of the ramps, they just went below, 6-10 feet down.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that.
Saving Private Ryan has a opening scene that shows that. And when I talk to World War II vets, they say that's what it was. That was.
Oh my gosh.
My grandfather couldn't watch it.
Pardon me?
My grandfather couldn't watch that scene.
He was just World War II vet.
Yeah, it was just too much for him. He couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine just the machine guns raining down on you.
And they knew it was coming, and they still went into gunfire. They went right into it because they knew they were, doing it for our country. I mean, they had that mindset, like, we'll do whatever it takes for our country. Our country's asking for our help. We're there. We're going. It's the greatest generation.
Vanessa, Kitty, I am sorry for your loss there. Talk about back in 91. Her uncle succumbed to everything. Yeah, I mean, I have so much respect for anyone that is military or was military or currently military. I'm looking up to see if my wife is looking down.
Of course, I can't get enough of the world news, and I watch the Israeli news quite a bit now, and a lot of news sources from overseas. But we talked about the past, World War II and Vietnam and the last Iraq and Afghan wars. I think there's a possibility, if this war goes regional and in a big way over in Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Syria and Iran and now Iraq, that could be one of the biggest challenges our military's ever faced. And it looks like it is getting worse every day. And hopefully it's not going to continue to get much worse. But there is a chance our military is going to be challenged more so than probably since World War II coming up. Actually, I couldn't believe when I heard this, but they said, Iraq and Afghanistan was a good warm-up for what's coming up.
Oh my gosh.
They fought the people out in the desert, and a lot of it was roadside bombs and some house to house and things like that. It was a warm-up for what's about to happen. And, when I think about it, CQB, close quarters battle, military operations in urban terrain, when you think about it, and we were really, that's what Tier 1 forces do really, really well, is CQB, close quarter battle. And we did it in buildings, homes, villages, ships, airplanes, trains, anything that was close quarters. And there's always mistakes made. But if you take down one building, like the house I'm in now, it could take about 8 people to do this. And hopefully there's not any blue on blue, because somebody might be coming in through one door, someone coming in the roof. There's a lot that goes on. And I start thinking about what could happen in Gaza, because now plus 200 plus hostages, and now they're underneath those tunnels under the schools and hospitals and buildings. And of course, they've got weeks to set up now, 13 days now to set up for the ground assault to come in. And there's going to be some fighting there that we probably haven't seen since probably World War II, if then.
Sure.
And it's going to be ground forces. And of course, it doesn't show something on the shirt saying I'm Hamas. They put down the weapons. Right. You don't know who they are. And so So I think our military, well, I should say right now, the Israeli military, the IDF, they got a lot of work coming their way, and we've got 2,000 troops on standby, and some of our spec op warriors are there now. But if it escalates, it might make what we've done in the last 20 years seem like maybe that was the warm up.
Yeah, and it might not just be regional; it might go global. I mean, if you look at some of the other people that are, if you look at around the world right now, it looks like the world is split. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of people that back the Hamas, and there's a lot of people that back Israel, and it looks like it's split. And not only split like this country, this country, this country. There's a lot of split within countries too.
It sickens me to see what's going on at our universities and in Congress. Some of the leaders there, my God, I can't believe they're Americans. You know,
they're not.
Yeah, they're not. You're right. They're not.
Right.
Of course, they get a voice, but they're getting too much of a voice. Why even have them anywhere around? But it's they're infecting our schools, and they're not American. They're not American. Yeah, they're going against everything we stand for. And Hamas, okay. Yeah, you can think hard. You think, okay, Palestinian people, they are people. Palestinians, and I've worked with Palestinians one-on-one before, okay? And women and children of a Palestinian family are the same as women and children anywhere in the world. Once they get up to bringing in Hamas as the de facto leadership or the government of their people, that was a big mistake, even though maybe 10 to 30% voted them in. But still, Hamas is the leadership. Those are the people they brought it in. And Israel, they don't have much of a choice. It could be death by 1,000 cuts. Hamas can attack this week and next week and send in missiles the week after. It'll never, ever end. But after this brutal attack they did almost 2 weeks ago, Israel, I think, has made the only decision it could make. We got to defeat Hamas. We got to get them off the face of this earth. And unfortunately, there are going to be some casualties, which just happens in war. But I can say this, Israel is doing more to protect the Palestinian people than their own government's doing. They want to keep them there for human shields. And Israel, the IDF, and Americans will do the same thing, do everything we can or they can to protect innocent civilian lives. But in doing that, they still got to go cut the head off the threat. They've got to neutralize the threat, or it's going to be a death of 1,000 serious cuts, because that threat's going to come at them nonstop. And boy, what happened now, and it's worked in their favor, is, they attacked 13 days ago. They attacked. The whole world basically was on the side of Israel. And then it didn't take long at all for the Hamas and the Palestinians to start showing, look how terrible these Israelis are doing. Look what they're doing to us. Look at these images and pictures. You got to come on our side. So now the tide is already turning, where there's almost more support for the terrorists who attacked Israel than there is for Israel. Luckily, Israel has the United States, and I know Germany's backing us and England's backing us. We got those 2 aircraft carriers out there standing by right now. England's sending a carrier, or they're carrying, I'm not sure if it's a carrier or not, but they're sending some boats out there. And Germany's behind us, but we don't have a large presence there. And the rest of the world, like we're just saying, we have Russia and North Korea now being involved, and they found North Korean weapons that the Hamas were using. So we have Russia, North Korea, and Iran against us as well. And it's a movement that's growing. And we are so fortunate we have such a strong military, and the IDF is incredibly strong. But if they're going to start, they're already fighting in Hezbollah. It's already a 2-front war, Hezbollah. And, there was an interview with the folks up north there saying in Lebanon, why are you letting Hezbollah fire down on Israel? You're going to make this a big regional conflict. And the reporter was saying, well, we can't stop them. They're based out of Lebanon here, but they take all their orders from Iran. And if Iran wasn't supporting Hamas and Hezbollah, there wouldn't be a Hezbollah or Hamas. And it's not just the $6 billion we're supporting or we've given to Iran, which is frozen hopefully right now, but we've been giving them billions of dollars for a long time. I remember when Obama was president and they got caught shipping billions of dollars on an aircraft. They said, "What are you doing?" They said, "Oh, we owed this money to Iran because of an arms deal back in the 70s, and we can't do it electronically." They got caught red-handed. And then they did some research and found out the Obama administration was sending Iran funds electronically as well. And then Biden, of course, is trying to send them this money, and John Kerry. I don't know why in the world we would ever support Iran's nuclear program, send them billions of dollars when they say our charter is death to Israel and then death to America as a
Yeah, they call America the Great Satan. I got a question. Have you ever watched there was an old speech from it was actually a TV interview with Yuri Bezmenov from the 80s, who was a KGB informer, and he's like, this is what you have to look out. This is the communist plan for the United States, and he lays out the
pretty
steps
much what's happening in college.
And if you look at it, if you watch it and compare to what's going,
it's like step by step by that script.
Yeah. There is a guide book, a playbook back from Stalin. That's pretty much saying, okay, this is how you can change a whole country's way of thinking. This is how we become socialists. Get rid of religion, because we don't want people to look up at a spiritual leader or a priest or a minister. They should be looking at the government. And by the way, you don't have to have parents, mother and father. They're not the people who should raise you. It's the government. Right. And by the way, we don't even need a boy or girl designation anymore, a man or a female, or male or female designation anymore. It's all the same. It doesn't matter. And it's really a playbook that our left has been following. And it's being followed not by many. And I hope that this war in Israel straightens up the left a little bit. And of course, there'll be the wackos like Tlaib and those people. But I do hope this war straightens up the left and brings us together. I love what happened in Israel. They had the prime minister who had the country, half the country was against Netanyahu before he was voted in. And he had a hard time. And unfortunately, the reservists were saying, if you call us to war, we're not going. And pilots weren't going. Israel had its problems, but as soon as they got attacked, the whole country bound together. And they said, okay, no matter what the politics or everything, we are here to protect our country. And they have to for survival. But I hope some of that happens to the U.S., where people will see, wow, that happened in Israel. We have a completely wide open border. I mean, who knows who's coming across? Something like that could happen in the U.S. And I remember back in the 90s, we were going after sleeper cells. And we knew there were 200 sleeper cells in the U.S. waiting for a mission. And these are guys who are just waiting for a mission, who are anti-U.S. and whatever faction or terrorist group they belong to. They got a shirt and tie, they'd go to work and they'd look like Americans, but they had an agenda. I can't wait for a mission to do it for their cause, not the American cause. And who knows how many people we have like that now that we'll never know. There's so many ways, and we don't track these people at all. But I hope America realizes we got to shut down that border. We can't just have an open border. People who don't like our way of life are coming in. And look what happened to Israel with the best intel agencies in the world. If that can happen to them, why can't something similar happen to us? And that's what I think that's what I hope the people in America realize before something bad happens here as well.
Well, we looked it up. We have a podcast that we also do, a second podcast that we talk about more controversial issues that would get us demonetized on YouTube. And on Monday, we did one on Islamic extremism. And we looked at the border statistics. And in July, what was it? 200 and some people on the terrorist watch list was called or identified.
Identified. That's right. Not caught, but identified.
Identified coming across the border, which is insane. And that was July. A single month. I mean, this is from actual Customs and Border Patrol statistics. So it's not like
Yes.
some conspiracy theory website. We actually looked up the statistics on Customs and Border Patrol.
And not to mention the fentanyl coming in is just wiping out such a large group of our people. You know, so many people dying of fentanyl, and the human trafficking is so bad. People don't even want to talk about it, but they know it's happening. Right. They're all for keeping that border open, and the cartel is making a fortune from the trafficking and the drug smuggling, and they're running the border now too. We've lost a lot of ground over the last couple of years.
Well, let me ask you this. The fentanyl thing, right? A lot of the precursors come from China, and it seems like the Chinese government is complicit on letting that get shipped to Mexico, and then from Mexico, they make it into fentanyl, then ship it to the United States. It kind of reminds me of what happened during the Opium Wars, but in reverse. Do you think that is intentional?
Absolutely. I do. From China, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. China is the fentanyl is they've been warned so many times. We know they're making precursors for all the chemicals you need to make fentanyl. They're sending it to Mexico and other countries, making up the fentanyl itself and getting it across the border. Sometimes there'll be a batch that's caught, but some of those batches have been enough to kill every person in the United States. Yeah. Who knows what's getting across? And it's so powerful. And now they're mixing it with Trank, which is a horse tranquilizer that makes fentanyl all the more potent. And now they're mixing it with chemicals so it lasts longer. And so you could buy these little fentanyl pieces of paper. It looks like they're just little tabs of paper with fentanyl in it for $10. And then pretty much now the thinking is any major city, when you see people on the side of a corner, or there's a drug deal going on in these street corners, they're probably selling fentanyl because it's in all the major cities now, and people just dropping left and right from it. And it really doesn't make the news.
Yeah, I was on fentanyl patches like 3 days. But I put back in the day, it was kind of hurt. So this is before fentanyl became fentanyl. It's always fentanyl, but before there was like an actual problem, and they put me on fentanyl patches. I put one on. Oh my God, I was so sick, and I kept on going back to the doctor, and he's like, "No, it's not that. You know, it's something. You just probably have the flu." I was like, "I don't think so. I think I'm gonna die." And
shoot.
And eventually I was like, I got to take this damn thing off. I took it off, and within like an hour, I was totally fine. And I was like, that stuff it just crushed me. And that was like on a prescribed, controlled dose by a doctor. And what these guys are getting is not prescribed. It's not a controlled dose. I can only imagine how dangerous that is.
Yeah, because you did have a prescription, but now, there's been a story a little while ago. A cop touched a doorknob with it on, and he died. And babies are getting it in their cribs, and they're dying. And they just had in a daycare center, they found a fentanyl lab there, but I think 3 kids got some fentanyl in a daycare center. And yeah, so one person can die immediately. Any given person can die immediately, and the dosages are high, low, medium. But if you happen to take it for the first time because you think your tolerance is up, because you can't get your other heroin or whatever it is you're doing, so you go to fentanyl, it's dropping those people too. Because what happened with heroin, it's bigger, it's harder to conceal, it's more expensive to get across the border. But fentanyl you can get on the black market, and you can send away for it on the internet, and you can have it delivered at your door now. It's that easy to get. And I believe you can invest $700 or $600 for a sheet of fentanyl, and people cut it up, go on the street corner, and they can make $10,000 from it.
That's freaking crazy.
It's unbelievable, the business side of that. And the businesses are usually run from people in prisons, and they're controlling the streets and the gangs who are selling the fentanyl. But because the left is running the media, it doesn't really make the news.
Yeah,
like to look for it on a YouTube special or something.
I've had several surgeries, so I've like Percocet. Like one of my other surgeries, they put me on Dilaudid, Vicodin, but nothing was like that fentanyl stuff. I mean, it was just in a whole nother class.
Yeah, and it's so
It's
addictive.
scary.
The first day, and a lot of people are getting it by accident. And then with a big pharma, got all these people addicted to drugs, prescribed drugs. We're the most overprescribed country in the world, by the way. But so we have all these prescriptions that aren't needed. And if somebody has anxiety, they know to go to the doctor because you'll get an anti-anxiety prescription, and then you'll get refilled forever. Other countries, if you have anxiety, you just deal with it. Just deal with it. If you're depressed, deal with it. If you lost a family member, deal with it. Don't try to hide it with pills. But the U.S. has been kind of conditioned that we should take medications for almost everything. And so when the medications, when people can't get their codeine or their oxycodone or whatever it is, then it's so much easier for them to get fentanyl. It's so much easier. It's $10 on the side of the street now, and it's really making the situation worse.
Yeah, I have a friend and my former roommate she's clean now, but she was on heroin, and the reason why she got on heroin is she wasn't like a drug seeker or anything else like that. Is she broke her neck, and like fractured vertebrae in her neck, so they put her on some pretty powerful narcotics, and then she got hooked on it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So when, because some people just, they get hooked, and then once she couldn't get the narcotics anymore, she went drug seeking. This is after she was my former roommate at this time, but and then she found heroin. Thank God she's clean now. She found religion and God, and that kind of what got her clean.
Good for her. Good.
But back then, I mean, it was, yeah.
The places like British Columbia, it's so bad. It's so bad up there. That's where the epidemic really started. Then it spread down to Oregon, Washington State, and it's really, really now it's all across the United States. But in British Columbia, there's an area there where everybody is on fentanyl, and there's free needles being given out at these shops, and you just see people frozen in place, and they're walking out, they're not dead, and it doesn't look like this planet. It's so bad, and it's a fentanyl epidemic, and they all say, well, yeah, heroin was nothing. That was nothing. Fentanyl is so much easier to get. It's so much more, 10 times more powerful than heroin. And so the whole community, I think it was called Hastings community up in British Columbia. It's a complete, all you hear is sirens and ambulances going by, picking up the bodies and putting them in. It's like a war zone. It looks like a war zone up there, but it doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. They call them like drug zombies or something like that.
Yeah. Cause they freeze, they lock up and they freeze. And they don't move after they do whatever they're sniffing it or smoking it or taking it under their tongue.
Yeah, it's like really, it's insane. It's not just in British Columbia. Like let me pull up this video so I can just show people. If you're listening to the audio only, this is in Philadelphia on Kensington Street, which is known for their drug zombies.
Yep. I've seen that. Yeah. That's the worst on the East Coast was Philly. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's moving still.
Yeah, but you're gonna see other people that are just like standing there like frozen. And let's see if they show any here. I'm looking for it, but like some of the people are just like frozen. They're like they're statues like this.
Yep, that's Yep, that's one right there.
And
you
there's
know,
other people that are like passed out standing up.
yeah. My brother helped a friend of ours when we were growing up. We had a good friend, and that good friend called my brother. My brother had some drug issues when he was younger, growing up, and he got clean and sober and all that. But he's helped a lot of people on drugs. And this one guy, a friend of ours, said, "Hey Rick, can you help my son? He's taking drugs." My brother said, "Of course I can." This was just a couple of weeks ago. And my brother went home. He told the guy's son, to meet him at the house. And he had an overdose, and he was standing by the side of his truck. He looked like a statue. He was frozen in place. Yeah, he overdosed even before my brother got there.
Oh,
Yeah, I
gee.
mean, it's just like, look at these guys.
Yep, that's our city streets. That's Philly, which is really bad.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous, and it's scary.
But you know, a lot of the problems we have, they're kind of self-induced because, for one, we say, okay, you guys can take these street corners, you guys can live here, you could have these free needles, do drugs, it doesn't matter. We'll let you stay on the streets. That's good. That's fine. Don't, and we'll keep the borders open so you can get all the drugs you want. A lot of these problems we don't have to have. We shouldn't have all the problems we have, and we need a strong leader. We need a strong government, and we don't have that. And it's just like, yeah, let all the drugs in, let all human trafficking thing go on. Let these people do drugs on the side of the street. If we didn't let them, maybe some of them would say, well, shoot, I better go get a job, you know. But it's not so bad. You know, they can live on the street. In New York, my God, you can't even get a hotel in New York anymore because it's all illegals who have the houses. They've got $350 a night hotel stays now that they're getting for free from taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, wow. They just kicked out a veterans nursing home.
They sure did.
Yes,
sure did. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So we don't really need all the problems we have. We can say, no, we'll take care of you for a week or 10 days. Oh, and also they've been trying to give all those people jobs, applications to fill out jobs. It's like 2% of them filled out job applications.
Why would you? You can get the same amount of money from doing nothing.
Everyone's going to give it to them.
And then you can work under the table.
Yeah.
And then get even more money.
You get a veteran who'll work all his life and maybe make $1,800 a month for Social Security. We're giving illegals like $2,700 a month for living here.
Yes,
we're making big mistakes, and we're kind of feeding. We're causing our own problems in some ways.
Yeah, we turned a magnet on.
Yeah, here's one. Johnny Barr says. Johnny 3 Bar says it's not just a big city problem. New Hampshire is a major hotspot, and that's right. It's started in the major cities, but now it's radiating out.
Yes.
And it's affecting everyone.
Yeah. Yep. I know New Hampshire got it really bad, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And that's where I grew up. And I grew up in a place next door in Methuen, Mass. And they call it Meth-Thuen now. It's infested with drugs up there.
Yeah, it's just
doesn't have to be, though. You know, there's answers. There's solutions.
Absolutely.
They're answers, but they're not easy answers, and nobody wants to act on those easy answers because they want to be seen as insensitive. You know,
yeah, you're insensitive, if that's what you want to call it. Maybe you're sensitive to other people's. You know, maybe you're sensitive to the people who are having. For instance, I had stem cell surgery, and I had new stem cells put in a few years ago at the best medical facility I've ever been to in my life, and this was in Denver, Colorado. And this Dr. Gary gave me my stem cells. I walked in, I go, my God, what a nice place. I saw him a couple months ago. I was doing a talk in Florida. And I said, Gary, how's your practice? He said, I had to shut it down. I said, you had to shut down that great practice? What happened? He said, well, when I open my doors, I look left and right, and there's all homeless people, urine and feces and needles. Nobody will come to into my doors anymore. And he said, it's happening to all the businesses. It's these liberal cities mainly is where it starts, but it is like the viewer just wrote in. It does spread. And it's really bad in West Virginia now. And, they had such a high unemployment rate, and now they have the big drug problems. They're really taking it hard too. Yeah, but
Well,
I don't
it's pretty
understand.
amazing. I grew up in New York. I lived 50 miles out of Manhattan, but it was like, you want to go to the city, you just take a train and you're there in an hour. And I grew up with, Ed Koch, Dinkins, and then Giuliani. And Giuliani, it's like it was a miracle what Giuliani did to Manhattan.
I don't know how he did it. Yeah, he did it.
Yeah, Rich and my wife are basically from the same town.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love Giuliani, man. He was ferocious, and he got that mob out of there. He cleaned up that street.
Yeah.
I used to go to New York City before that, and you're thinking, okay, somebody here is going to get mugged or somebody will be killed. I mean, it's a dangerous place. I wouldn't want to take kids there or anything. When Giuliani cleaned it up, I had my little daughter running around at midnight. I felt comfortable with that.
Oh, for sure. Like Times Square was all peep shows and hookers and drug dealers back in the day, and now it's like Times Square is great. I mean, it still is, but
yeah. Well, Giuliani did something where he started at like low-level crime. He's like, low-level crime is the easiest to take care of. If I can take care of low-level crime, it will work its way up.
He called it break the windows.
Yeah,
the broken window theory.
Yeah, the broken window theory. Yeah.
Actually, in my career, I worked for Bill Bratton at another job. So
tell people who Bill Bratton is. I don't think anyone.
Well, Bill Bratton was former police commissioner. He was police commissioner under Rudy Giuliani, and he did a lot to clean up New York City.
Yeah, the squeegee guys they took care.
Oh,
of
that was nuts.
Like that. And basically it had an effect. I mean, it was a measurable effect. It was a dramatic effect, actually.
Yeah.
I always wondered how does a man clean up a city like New York City and get the mob out of there? 5 families, I don't know how he did it. I guess we heard how he did it, but it doesn't seem possible what he did. That's what we need. We need a couple leaders like that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like all over our cities, we need it, and in our White House, and we can clean up a lot of the mess we're in.
And not just governmental. We need the regular people, regular citizens, to say enough is enough, and do their part.
That's easier said than done.
It is.
Well, that's like I keep saying, we got to have regular Americans run for office, whether it's school board or dog catcher or, local politics. We got to get regular Americans in, and we got to force out this ruling class.
Well, one of the things that somebody asked me one time, what do I think the biggest problem facing America is? And my answer was empathy. People just think, nothing I can do. It's going to be the way it is. It is what it is, and nothing I can do to change it.
The bystander effect.
Yeah, and when you have the majority of people in America saying, "Oh, there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to even try," and that's when you run into issues because the people in power can stay in power because they know you're not going to do anything. They can do whatever the hell they want with impunity because you're not going to challenge them.
And on top of that, the left has taken the voice away of the conservative, where so many people are afraid to speak their mind or to get blocked on a show, or I'm an author. I write these books. Here's an example. There's I told you about Ralph Pizzullo. He had 2 stories. One is it was a black man who was growing up in Compton, really bad area up by San Francisco. And he was in a lot of crimes. I don't know if he was with the Crips or the Bloods, but he was in a lot of gangs and things like that, gang activity. But then he straightened up, and then he went to the police academy. And then he like excelled and was like #1 in his police academy. Then he became the most decorated black police officer in law enforcement. This guy was gold. So Ralph had his story, and he was all excited about writing a book on him. And then the other one was the greatest cocaine seizure ever made in the U.S. Ralph had the story of this man who was he was a hero because he made this big bust, mainly on his own efforts. All the heroin got put in the jail, the holding, and then it was stolen. and then he got put in prison for stealing it. And then they found out it was wrong, and that this FBI agent didn't steal it, and he was accused wrongly. So Ralph, two great stories. He went to New York City, our publisher, and the publisher said, "Yeah, these are great stories. We want to publish these." This was just a few months ago. Ralph went back to Hollywood, got a call from the publisher. He said, "Ralph, you better sit down. I hate to say this to you, and I don't even have an answer, but I can't publish either one of your books because they're not woke books. All we're allowed to publish now are woke books. All that's on commercials now are woke commercials. All movies and TV shows are woke. They're not making any money. The books won't make any money. Your books would sell, but we've been stopped. We can't do any." I was asked by a publisher to come up with another sequel. I wrote one of the books, and the second book, they said, "No, we can't publish it. They only want woke books." So it's spread, this woke, socialistic society
virus
growing on us.
Yeah,
And we do have to have normal people stand up and not be afraid to talk and speak how they feel and get voted into these community, political offices and rise up to the top. We Republicans and conservatives tend to be more gentlemanlike or more polite and not like to make waves or sound like they're too radical. It's not radical. It's just trying to defend our country and keep our country standing up. And where our voice is being taken away because you're afraid to get muted and shut down.
Yeah, definitely. All right. This hour has flown by. I just want to remind everybody, on October 27th, there will be an episode of South Park called Inside the Pandaverse, and Disney is threatening to sue South Park over it because they're making fun of, all the wokeness in Hollywood and stuff. And they take some shots at Disney and Star Wars and Marvel Universe and everything else.
So I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, so Disney is threatening to sue them, and all these other places are threatening to sue them because it just goes after, it deals with like the race swapping and gender swapping and all the Disney movies now.
So they've got some guts. I like their
Those guys do have some guts.
Yeah.
But we've been on for an hour now, and so I got to get going. I got a thing I got to get to at 6:30. Gun Doctor TV on YouTube. Gun Doctor has a lot of going on, don't you?
I got a lot going on, and looking forward to more.
So Gun Doctor TV everywhere. Don, tell everyone where they can find you at.
Well, you're going to see me watching Gun Doctor TV. But I've got a website. It's my first name, Don, DON, at usfrogman with 2Ns.com.
All right, that's awesome. All right, guys, that is it. You can follow Flying Rich at Flying Rich _official on Instagram, Flying Rich Firearms, Flying Rich on YouTube, John Crump Live, John Crump News. Read my articles over at Amaland, and do check out the Uncensored podcast. You can go to uncensored.wtf and listen to it, or you can go to Rumble and Uncensored podcast on Rumble. With that, we are out of here. Thank you so much for coming on, and have a good day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.